Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into the heart of darkness once again. This is the part 2 of our journey inside the enigmatic Whispering Pines. Buckle up, because things are about to get even more mysterious and intense. As the earth continued to tremble beneath their feet, the group exchanged tense glances, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Whatever ancient force they had awakened was far more powerful than anything they had encountered before. With no time to spare, they pressed on, their footsteps echoing through the darkened corridors of Whispering Pines. Each step brought them closer to the heart of darkness, closer to the truth that lay buried beneath centuries of secrets. But as they ventured deeper into the shadows, the malevolent force that lurked within Whispering Pines seemed to grow stronger, its presence suffocating and oppressive. Shadows danced on the walls, and whispers echoed through the air, taunting them with promises of doom. Despite the overwhelming sense of dread that surrounded them, the group pressed on, their determination unwavering in the face of mounting danger. With each passing moment, they drew closer to the source of the darkness, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that they were not alone. Together, they braved the treacherous depths of Whispering Pines, their footsteps echoing through the silence like a drumbeat of determination. But as they reached the final chamber, they were met with a sight that sent chills down their spines. Before them stood a towering figure shrouded in darkness, its eyes gleaming with malice as it loomed over them like a specter of death. Its presence was overwhelming, its power tangible, and for a moment, the group was paralyzed with fear. But then, with a steely determination, Jason stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped his heart. "Who are you?" he demanded, his words echoing through the chamber with a sense of determination. The figure chuckled darkly, its voice a chilling whisper that sent shivers down their spines. "I am the darkness that lurks within Whispering Pines," it replied, its words dripping with malice. "I am the ancient force that has slept beneath these forests for centuries, waiting for the moment to rise again." As the group stood face to face with the towering figure shrouded in darkness, they could feel the weight of its malevolent presence pressing down on them like a suffocating blanket. Its form seemed to shift and warp, as if it were composed of the very shadows that danced around it, defying the laws of nature with its sinister appearance. The ancient force exuded an aura of primal power, an energy that seemed to ripple through the air like a tangible force. Its eyes, gleaming with a malevolent light, bore into the souls of those who dared to gaze upon it, sending shivers of fear down their spines. But it wasn't just the figure's appearance that unsettled them. It was the sense of ancient wisdom and malevolence that seemed to emanate from it. This was no mere creature of the night. It was a being that had existed long before the town of Whispering Pines had ever been settled, a force of darkness that had slumbered beneath the earth for centuries, waiting for the opportune moment to rise again. As the group braced themselves for the battle ahead, they couldn't help but wonder about the true nature of the ancient force that now stood before them. What secrets did it hold? What dark purpose drove it to awaken from its centuries-long slumber? But there was no time for contemplation, for the ancient force had already begun to unleash its power upon them. Shadows coiled around their ankles like serpents, threatening to drag them into the abyss, while whispers filled their ears with promises of despair and destruction. With each passing moment, the ancient force seemed to grow stronger, its influence spreading like a malignant cancer through the heart of Whispering Pines. And as the group fought valiantly against its dark minions, they knew that they faced a foe unlike any they had ever encountered before, a foe that would stop at nothing to see the town consumed by darkness. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, they refused to back down, their determination unyielding in the face of certain doom. For they knew that as long as they stood together, they would never be defeated. The ancient force let out a low, rumbling laugh, a sound that echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. "You dare to defy me, mortal," it hissed, its voice dripping with contempt. "You are nothing but insects beneath my heel, ants scurrying in the darkness." But Jason stood his ground, his resolve unshaken. "We may be small, but together we are strong," he declared, his voice echoing with conviction. "We will fight to protect Whispering Pines, no matter the cost." The figure of darkness let out a primal growl, its form contorting and shifting as if in response to Jason's words. "Foolish mortals," it spat, its voice reverberating through the chamber like a thunderclap. "You cannot hope to defeat me. I am eternal, unstoppable." But even as the ancient force spoke, the group felt a surge of power welling up within them, a spark of determination that refused to be extinguished. Drawing strength from their unity, they stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead. With a wordless cry, the group launched themselves into battle, their weapons flashing in the dim light as they clashed with the minions of darkness. Shadows writhed and twisted around them, but they fought on, their determination unyielding in the face of overwhelming odds. As the battle raged on, the ancient force unleashed wave after wave of darkness, its power threatening to overwhelm them at every turn. But the group refused to falter, drawing on their inner strength and the bonds of friendship that bound them together. With each blow they struck, the darkness seemed to recede, its grip on Whispering Pines weakening with every passing moment. And as they fought, they began to sense a glimmer of hope, a faint flicker of light in the darkness that surrounded them. With a final, decisive blow, the group struck down the ancient force, sending it reeling back into the shadows from whence it came. And as the darkness receded, a sense of peace descended upon Whispering Pines. The town bathed in the warm glow of dawn's first light. Exhausted but triumphant, the group stood together, their hearts filled with a sense of accomplishment. For they had faced the darkness head-on and emerged victorious, their bond stronger than ever before. And as they looked out upon the town they had fought so hard to protect, they knew that their journey was far from over. But with their unity and determination, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together they could overcome anything. With that, they turned and began the long journey home, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that Whispering Pines was safe once more. And though the shadows may linger, they knew that as long as they stood together, the light would always prevail. As they disappeared into the distance, the echoes of their victory rang out through the forest, a testament to the power of friendship, courage, and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to defy the darkness. And in the heart of Whispering Pines, a new chapter began, one filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. But little did they know, their victory had not gone unnoticed. Deep within the shadows, another ancient force stirred, its eyes gleaming with malice as it watched and waited for the perfect moment to strike again. Deep within the shadows of Whispering Pines, another ancient force stirred, its presence like a malignant tumor festering in the heart of the forest. Unlike the previous entity, this force was older, more insidious, and far more cunning. As the group departed, unaware of the looming threat that lingered in the darkness, the ancient force began to weave its web of deceit, spreading its tendrils of corruption throughout the town. Whispered rumors turned into sinister plots, and the once tranquil streets of Whispering Pines became a breeding ground for paranoia and fear. Elias Blackwood, the enigmatic medium, was the first to sense the growing darkness, his visions revealing glimpses of a malevolent presence lurking just beyond the edge of perception. But try as he might, he could not discern the true nature of the threat, its identity shrouded in mystery and shadow. Meanwhile, Evelyn Carter pored over ancient texts and forgotten manuscripts in search of answers, her quest for knowledge leading her down a dark and dangerous path. With each revelation, she uncovered more pieces of the puzzle, but the picture remained incomplete, the truth just out of reach. As the ancient force tightened its grip on Whispering Pines, Lucas Hawthorne found himself tormented by visions of darkness and despair, his mind haunted by nightmares of a future bathed in blood and shadow. Desperate for answers, he turned to Adelaide Miller for guidance, but even she could offer no solace in the face of such overwhelming evil. And then, just as the group began to unravel the mystery of the ancient force, tragedy struck. Jason disappeared without a trace, his fate unknown to all but the shadows that lurked in the depths of Whispering Pines. With their friend missing and the darkness closing in around them, the group realized that they faced a foe unlike any they had ever encountered before. For this ancient force was not bound by the laws of nature or the constraints of time. It was a being of pure malevolence, a force of darkness that hungered for nothing less than the destruction of all that was good and pure in the world. And so, with their hearts heavy and their resolve tested, the group prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. For they knew that only by confronting the darkness head on could they hope to save Whispering Pines from a fate worse than death. With that, they set out once more into the heart of the forest, their minds filled with determination and their spirits fortified by the bonds of friendship that bound them together. For they knew that as long as they stood united, they would never be defeated, no matter what horrors awaited them in the shadows. As the group ventured deeper into the heart of Whispering Pines, they encountered increasingly sinister manifestations of the ancient force's power. Shadows twisted and writhed around them, forming grotesque shapes that seemed to reach out with malevolent intent. Whispers echoed through the darkness, sowing seeds of doubt and fear in their minds. But despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them, the group pressed on, their determination unyielding in the face of such darkness. Adelaide's unwavering belief in the power of truth to overcome even the darkest of shadows served as a guiding light, illuminating their path forward. And then, just as they reached the heart of the forest, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an eerie, otherworldly light. At its center stood Jason, his eyes glazed over and his expression vacant, as if he were in a trance. With a sinking feeling in their hearts, the group realized that Jason had fallen victim to the ancient force's influence. But they refused to give up hope, knowing that they had come too far to turn back now. Summoning all of their courage and strength, they confronted the ancient force head-on, their minds and spirits fortified by the bonds of friendship that bound them together. With each blow they struck, the darkness seemed to weaken, its grip on Jason slowly loosening. And then, just as it seemed as though all hope was lost, a blinding light erupted from the center of the clearing, banishing the darkness and freeing Jason from its grasp. As the light faded, Jason collapsed to the ground, his eyes fluttering open as he regained consciousness. With their friend safe once more, the group breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that they had triumphed over the ancient force that had threatened to consume Whispering Pines. But their victory was short-lived, for they knew that the darkness still lingered, waiting for the opportune moment to rise again. And so, with their resolve tested and their bonds stronger than ever, the group prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that as long as they stood united, they would never be defeated. For they were the guardians of Whispering Pines, and they would stop at nothing to protect their home from the forces of darkness. Thank you for tuning in to Hush Harmony ASMR. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more peaceful content. Until next time, stay relaxed and serene.